Hi, and welcome back to Engine Shop Joe. We've been talking about the DEF system in general, SCR DEF system, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the fluid's temperature today. And we know what happens if it gets below 11 degrees. It will freeze. It's a hard freeze. But what about on the other end of the scale? Does it matter if it gets a little bit warm? And is 60 okay? Is 80 degrees okay? Is 90 degrees Fahrenheit okay? How about 120 degrees Fahrenheit? We know that coolant heats the DEF. What if the DEF got to 180 degrees? That's about all the temperature the coolant really should have. Okay, maybe 190, 195 up there. Does it matter? Well, let's take a look and see on Engine Shop Joe. Let's take a look at our fault snapshot first. And towards the bottom left, we see the red arrow pointing towards fault code number 1713. And the description for that fault is after treatment, 1, diesel exhaust fluid tank heater, data valid, but above normal operating range, moderately severe. Now notice that it's talking about the tank heater and its data is above normal. So, software has pre-written descriptions. It's not able to sometimes speak to us in a logical sense, and sometimes reading a description after you read it, you're a little more confused than before you read it. So we're going to go through this and then we're going to talk about what that fault really means. So here's a screen print of our fault screen, and as you can see, we've got a bunch of faults in there, and I've got third column from the left, I've got numeral 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1 at the bottom, 4 at the top. The reason I have those in there is the top 3, which are active, are SCR operator inducement, SCR operator inducement condition exists, and engine torque derate condition exists. So these are all active faults. This engine's in an active derate. Now we have to figure out why. So the reason why is because of the fluid quality. The fluid quality is below what it should be. Now notice it says below normal operating range. Well, the operating range for DEF fluid is 32.5, period. And there's a tool that you measure that with, that you put a drop of it on the tool and you look through it. It's called a refractometer. They make one just for DEF fluid. And that's what you use to determine the quality of the fluid, and it goes back to that 32.5. And so that number is off. So now, do we drain the DEF tank and replace the fluid because the operator put something in he shouldn't have? He diluted it by accident. Somebody put in windshield washer fluid. We don't know. But we can know, and we just need to think a little bit. Now, you're not going to know this until you see it the first time. And the first time I found it, I'm like, it was an aha moment for me. So you see the red arrow at fault code 1713. That's inactive, but there's 2 counts. And that fault is there because the diesel exhaust fluid tank heater data was valid, but a normal operating range. Sometimes software has a strange way of telling us something. And the description that it gives us really doesn't do justice what the problem is. It's like looking at your cup on the right and it's talking about the ashtray on the left. It breeds confusion. But we're going to go in and look in the next photo I put up of the fault snapshots. And then this is going to be hopefully crystal clear. So let's take a look. Okay, let's take a look at the snapshot of the fault from the first fault code. Remember, there was 2. Our quality is, diesel fluid quality is 33.8. It should be 32.5, so that's off. And then our tank level was at 10%. And look what the tank temperature was, 151 degrees. It should never be that hot. That's why we had fault code 1713. Here's a snapshot from the second count of that fault 1713. And notice the fluid quality has dropped down even farther to 21.5. should be 32.5. The tank level is 64, so they've added quite a bit of fluid. There's volume in there. Look at the temperature. It's almost 170. What was wrong? The water control valve had failed, and it was allowing hot engine water to run into the tank continually. We replaced that valve, and then the problem went away. We cleared the faults. There was no more derates, no more problems. So our takeaway from this is that as tank temperature gets hotter and hotter, it causes the sensor in the DEF fluid tank that measures quality to drift, or it loses accuracy as the temperature gets too hot. Normal, what I'm going to say is normal maximum hot DEF fluid temperature that I see on average is about 125 to 100 and maybe 30 degrees absolute tops, and it should be usually lower than that. I believe the system tried to keep the temperature under 100 degrees as far as using that water control valve. It depends on your ambient conditions. If you're out in Nevada and it's 110 degrees outside, the fluid's going to be 110 degrees if the sun's been shining on a tank all day. There's no cooling, just heating in the tank. So the system can take some heat, but I think you can see by these faults, once you get over 125 degrees, it can start to affect the system. So thanks for joining me on Engine Shop Joe, and we'll see you next time.